Champions League is back in the UK for the second year in a row. So we're back in Gloucester for the Strongman Champions League this weekend. It was an amazing event last year. The organisation they put into this show is really good. Well-run show last year. Fans loved it, the athletes loved it, and we're excited to be going back. Unfortunately, we don't have last year's winner competing this year. Ivers Schmaxless was the champion of this event last year. Ivers is actually the current leader in the Strongman Champions League, but he is focused on the Shore Classic right now. So unfortunately, we don't have him, but it's a very strong lineup. And we've got some new names to some of you fans that we'll go through a few things because there is some real good up-and-comers right now that's going to be exciting to see in this one. So with that being said, should we go through the athlete lineup very, very quickly?
Yes, let's. So first up, representing the UK is Kane Francis.
Next up, from Estonia, we've got Irvin Toits.
One very exciting addition to this year's lineup is the current Europe's strongest man from Ukraine, Pavlo Kordiaka.
And someone I'm excited to see, he's looking really good in training right now, is Shane Flowers.
Returning to Gloucester is the giant from Ireland, Sean O'Hagan.
From Holland, we have George Solomon.
Making his debut at the Strongman Champions League from UK is Jack Osborne.
Then we have the winner of the qualifier to get to this competition, David Pawlowski, who did exceptionally well last year as well.
Last year he placed second in America's Strongest Man. Very excited to see Tyler Cotton.
And an athlete that's been smashing it in the Champions League, recently winner in the Strongman Champions League in Portugal, is Evans Nana.
Also in this lineup we have the current Scotland Strongest Man, Lewis Jack.
Representing Italy, we have Andre Invenizzi.
And last but not least, representing Poland is Sebastian Kurek.
So it's an interesting lineup. Some names that maybe some people won't recognise. There are a lot of kind of new faces for this year. So Evans Nana, for instance, he is a real superstar, doing extremely well, unbelievably fast at things like the Super Yoke and Farmer's Walk. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Evans does in this competition. But he's up against some stiff opposition.
And obviously one of the biggest names is the current Europe's Strongest Man, Pavlo Kordiaka. Now I looked back and I think it was like 2018 when Thor was Europe's Strongest Man, was the last time we had the current Europe's Strongest Man at a Strongman Champions League. So this is really, it's a great deal for the Strongman Champions League guys.
It is indeed. And Pavlo is really, you know, he's a top 10 in the world without a question.
100%.
I think he has to be the favourite going into this competition.
Yes.
That being said, the deadlift has been an issue for him, and there is a deadlift. It's a deadlift ladder. We'll go through the events in a second, but that could cause him a few problems.
It could, yet he still won Europe's with a deadlifting competition. It was still only 5 events.
And that was a deadlift ladder, wasn't it?
No, it was a deadlift for reps, standard height.
Oh yeah, it was this year. I get confused with all the competitions going on. A couple of other names to really look out for. Kane Francis is currently, I think, in second place overall in the Champions League. So in this competition, he's the current leader, doing very, very well. He's really excelled in the Champions League. He's one of those athletes that seems to adapt to lots of events. And Champions League do throw events that, you know, you don't often know the events well in advance. So he's got this ability to sort of adapt and get used to things, and I think he'll be really good in this competition.
Yeah. Also, Shane Flowers is looking incredible in training right now.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Shane, just watching his training. He seems to be looking very, very strong. Coming back from maybe like a disappointing kind of couple of performances, he's looking back to his best, and I think he's really going to want to sort of cement a big performance in this and prove he is one of the top guys.
Someone I'm really excited to see is Tyler Cotton. The last time we saw him in person was actually OSG 2021.
Yeah, where he was second at OSG. He is an athlete I've been impressed with over the last few years. He came second at America's Strongest Man, beating the likes of Trey Mitchell.
Yeah.
So he's got pedigree. It depends how he kind of travels over, what kind of shape he's in. But he is a fantastic athlete. Another athlete I think is really worth looking out for is a guy called David Pawlowski.
Yeah, definitely.
This guy impressed me last year. I saw him recently at they did a qualifier to get to the Champions League, and he won that event. He's exceptionally good when it comes to the Viking Walk, which is another event that's in this competition. But I'd been impressed by the improvements I saw all round by him, and I think for someone that probably a lot of people don't know who he is, I think he's definitely worth kind of looking out for in this one. Of course, I've got to give a shout out to Jack Osborne. This is his first ever Champions League. He's an exceptional presser. He's very, very good on things like the Viking walk as well, making exceptional progress all round. He's looking good in training, and I know he's looking forward to the opportunity to compete against some of these bigger names.
But with all that said, we know how important events are in determining who we think is going to be a winner anyway. So shall we look at the events?
Always. Starting off with the overhead medley. Now, this is an interesting one. They're going to have 130 kilo axle, 150 kilo log, and then 110 kilo dumbbell for reps in the remaining time that's left. Now, for me, I think 130 axle is not too heavy for a lot of these guys. 150 log isn't that heavy just to do it once.
Yeah.
But a 110 dumbbell could cause a lot of these guys problems.
That's quite heavy, like comparatively.
In comparison to the other events. And I think
yeah,
it has to favour someone like Kordiaka.
I was going to say Pavlo would be, like, Jack is an incredible presser, but I think Pavlo can rep out a 110 dumbbell.
If it was just log, I genuinely believe Jack
Yeah.
would be causing people a lot of problems.
Yeah.
The fact that it's all three implements and the dumbbell is such an explosive movement, and I know how good Kordiaka is on this one, I think he's going to be hard to beat.
I do like a overhead medley because it doesn't favour any one type of lifter, does it? It's more of a complete test. I do like a medley.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, but yeah, I would put my money on Kordiaka to take this one.
I would too.
I don't actually know the order of the event, so I'm saying it's event number 2. I don't know that for a fact, but it's the second event is going to be the Viking walk. Now, I hear it's about 300 or 320 kilos, and they have extended the distance that the athletes can walk from last year. So it's still for distance, but there's going to be less turns involved, which allow them to kind of cover a bit more ground in the time that they're up. So I got the opportunity to do this event myself at the British Masters earlier this year. It's a brutal event. And it's one of those that if you've had a go on it before, that is a big advantage. Now,
David Pulowski is incredible at this. He won this event last year. The bigger guys really seem to struggle more. The likes of Kelvin de Ruyter and Mika Toro, they really...
Well, all the athletes have to lift off the same height. So if you're taller, you've got to lift it higher. Which maybe is a bit of a disadvantage, but it is one of those, I think, once you've got the feel for it, like, I'm convinced doing it again, I'd be better.
So next is a deadlift ladder, and they're using the same setup that they used last year, where it's like Atlas stones, and it is quite cool. Last year was actually won by Paul Smith, and you would never pick Paul. No, and like, Paul will understand. You wouldn't pick Paul to win a deadlift event, but because he was able to do it without straps, he was able to do it that much quicker. Now, the weights, it's 4 different weights ranging from 270 to 380 kilos. Now, we say about deadlift being Pavlo's weaker event, but he could still score quite decently there, I feel.
He could. You got to look at the opposition sometimes, and sometimes I'm comparing him to the absolute
best
top 10 guys in the world. So
of course.
He should still be able to pick up points, but there will be guys that beat him. Shane Flowers is an exceptional deadlifter. I expect him to do really well on this one. Could well be my favourite, I think, to win the deadlift. So the next event is the sandbag toss. They're throwing, I think it's 5 sandbags from 18 to 26 kilos over a 4.5 metre platform. I said foot earlier. 4.5 meters makes much more sense. So this one will be all about explosive power. It's an event that's very easy to make a mistake on, and you really don't want to make a mistake because these kind of weights are not the heaviest for this level of athletes. Some of these guys are going to be launching these. I know Pavlo Kordiaka, I know Shane Flowers is an amazing thrower.
Lewis Jack as well.
Lewis Jack,
very good thrower.
But also someone like Sean O'Hagan, who's halfway up there already.
That's true.
Surely he's going to be good at throwing.
You would think so, wouldn't you?
I can't see him being bad in it, definitely.
Of course not.
It's just going to be about not making a mistake. I think athletes are going to have to take the risk of throwing from where the bags are set rather than kind of walking in with them because it's going to be about speed.
So they are finishing on the Atlas stones, 5 stone series, 120 to 200 kilos. Now, this is a set that they used last year, and even though it's quite standard in terms of weight, these are a hard set of stones. Only 2 athletes managed to finish it last year. One of them being Lewis Jack, who's there this year. The others was Ivor Schmuxless. But I can see more finishing this year, I think, looking at the lineup.
Could come down to weather conditions. Been looking at the weather. It doesn't look the best at the moment.
Iffy.
Hopefully it's going to be better. But yeah, only 2 athletes finished the stones last year. one of which was Lewis Jack, who ended up, when he's a great stone lifter as well. So he will be happy to see the stones in this competition. I'm sure he's going to be looking to finish strong. We know there's a lot of good stone lifters in there as well, and it often comes down to positioning and, you know, who's still motivated at this point, who's going to kind of be willing to push themselves to get that last stone up and get the title.
So with all that said, Lozzie, do you care to throw out some predictions? Because I actually think it's really hard to predict.
It's a very hard comp to predict. I mean, I've not even mentioned guys like Irvin Toyts, who I believe Irvin was second overall in the Champions League last year. You got Sebastian Kurek, who has been at World's Strongest Man before. There's a whole host of athletes, and it depends what kind of shape people are in coming into this one. You don't always know. Sometimes people are kind of coming in with injuries that they're not telling people about. But from what I've seen online, from what kind of the training that I've seen, and kind of just understanding the sport as well as I think I do, I think Pavlo Kordiaka has to be one of the favourites.
I agree, yeah, even with the deadlift.
Yeah, I 100% think that. I think Kane Francis is just a reliable athlete that always performs well, and it being in the UK, you know he's going to want to do well.
Yeah.
I feel the same about Shane. Shane Flowers is in great shape right now. He's not been competing lots. He's been looking at just progressing. He's had a good amount of rest time. He's fully recovered, looking very, very strong. And as kind of an outsider, I see David as someone to look out for. I think the events suit him. I think his strength is better than it was last year. He was 6th last year. I think he can do even better this year.
So tickets are still available for this event. It's in Gloucester Quays this Saturday, the 12th of August. The tickets are so reasonably priced as well. It starts from like £6 for children and £11 for adults. So it really is a decently priced family day out for Strongman fans.
Yeah, it really is. And if you kind of want to drag the missus along and she's not into Strongman, Gloucester Quays is a great shopping area as well. So.
That's quite... I don't agree with that.
You say that.
I feel sexist.
You say that, but I had someone come up to me on the weekend.
Yeah.
And they've been to 2 events down in Gloucester.
Yeah.
And she said, Loz, I can't believe you didn't tell me that there was a shopping centre there and I had to stay and watch the Strongman all day. So I'm just putting it out there for anyone in that situation. Obviously, we love to watch the Strongman.
I had a man say to me, Liz, I love you so much because you got my missus into Strongman.
There we go.
So there we go. There's
Good
two
stuff.
sides to the coin.
We're just keeping everyone happy.
We're keeping everyone happy with the location. But also at Strongman Champions League, it's not the biggest arena show, so it is quite close and personal. You do get to meet the athletes afterwards. So if you are a big Strongman fan and it's a commutable distance to you, it's definitely one worth going to.
Get yourselves there, guys. We're going to be there all weekend. Looking forward to seeing the action. Looking forward to meeting lots of fans. And if you haven't got your ticket already, make sure you get it. Champions League comes back. Oh, just checking this out. Hot off a victory in Portugal last weekend. Last weekend, was it? And an athlete that's been absolutely smashing it in the Champions League. Hot off his late...
It says injured. Oh no, it says Ireland. Returning to Gloucester is the giant from Ireland. Oh, I forgot his name. Coming over from Scotland, the current... And last but not least, Sebastian Kurek.
I think it's 18 to 26 kilos over 4 foot or 4.5 foot. I'm not 100% sure. Sorry, 4 foot. 4 foot, nothing. 4 foot, they'd just be like,